Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Jean-Ray Jones. I'm a GP based in Pietermaritzburg, originally from Cape Town. And I'll be speaking about transgender, what it actually means, and just giving a bit of a background regarding myself and how I'm in the process of transitioning as a transgender female. All right, let me just share my slides. So Chris already spoke about this, so I'm just going to go through it quite quickly. Sex, when we use the word sex, we refer to biologic sex according to one's genetic makeup and its phenotypic expression, either male versus female, or the term that we use, sex assigned at birth. Also, in relation to this, we look at one's gender identity, and that's a person's internal sense of self as either male or female, or both or neither. And it can differ from what one's biological sex is, which is based on the external genitalia. All right. The gingerbread person tells us that basically gender identity, gender expression, biological sex, and sexual orientation are all on, can be put on a scheme ranging from either being female to male, either being feminine to masculine, female, male once again, or heterosexual, homosexual. And where you fit in the on the spectrum would be how you identify yourself. So a person who's transgender is a person who has a gender identity different from his or her sex assigned at birth. So a transgender woman is someone who was born in a male body, and we use the term assigned male sex at birth, amen, but identifies as female, or we also use the term male to female. A transgender man is someone who is born in a female body, assigned female sex at birth, but identifies as male, female to male. The word transsexual basically refers as a medical term to which describes a transgender individual who has transitioned to the opposite sex and often having had sexual reassignment surgery. Other terms more to the gender diverse individuals is terms such as gender non-conforming. These expresses genders in ways which contravene the conventional norms as to what society expects a man or a woman to express themselves in terms of mannerism, speech, dress, or masculine or feminine, or both or none. So you might find someone identifies as male in terms of his or her gender identity, but prefers to wear female clothing, and that doesn't define their gender identity. So that is what we refer to as gender non-conforming. It's more a gender expression. The term gender queer refers to individuals who don't identify as either male or female, or they identify as both male and female, somewhere along the gender spectrum. And we refer them to as non-binary individuals. So gender transition, is a process, and it's quite a complicated process, where one comes to recognize your gender identity and put steps in place to actually accept it and to express it, so that other people can identify yourself as you prefer. And in this period, you make changes which other people can visibly see. So you change in your appearance, you change your name, you change your pronoun, which you prefer to be referred to. So there are social, medical, physical, and legal components of transitioning. I must say the video that Chris played, I could really relate so much to what was said in that video. And it reminded me a lot of my childhood as a transgender individual. I was born male, assigned at birth, and found that as a small child, from as young as 3 years old, I always preferred to play with girls. I always preferred to have My Little Pony and Barbie dolls. So I always found myself playing with girl things. Although society and also, that my culture based at home, which was very predominantly a Christian background, would would reprimand me for wanting to be more feminine in the way I am, and in the things that I prefer to do. Um, I also remember my friends, maybe around about grade 5, which were all girls. They pulled me aside and said, "Genre, I think it's time that you need to start playing with the boys." And that emotionally really affected me because I found that. But I only find it comfortable to play with girls. And now all of a sudden I was being forced to play with boys, which I wasn't used to doing. And as a transgender child growing up, I didn't know that I was transgender. I knew that I like to play with girls. I used to wear girl clothing, which I used to steal from my mother's cupboard. Um, and people would always make fun of me for being very feminine in my expression and my mannerisms. But as I grew up and I became a bit older in my puberty and late teens, I thought of myself maybe as a homosexual because society teaches one that if you are a guy or a male and you like and find yourself attracted to another male, then that means you are a homosexual, you are gay, and that didn't sit well with me because I found it very difficult to relate to other homosexual people, and I wasn't attracted to homosexual individuals. I was attracted to heterosexual males. Yeah, so um, only once I started actually researching what it means to be transgender, then I realized that maybe this is who I am. And I took certain steps to actually um, achieve, um, to express myself as female. And once I really understood that, although I identify as female psychologically and in my heart and with my emotions and with the way I present myself, um, even though biologically I am deemed as male or male, um, I identify as a female. Um, and once I understood that, I was very comfortable in expressing who I am. So I'm going to show you a before and after pic of myself. So you can see basically my transitioning. So that was me before, and this is me now. So initially when I started working as a professional, I assumed a male role. And while discovering myself as a professional, I then assumed the role of the female, which I am now more comfortable in. And that in itself came with a lot of discrimination, especially from colleagues. And psychologically, it was quite a huge stressor because you have to face people's comments and remarks behind your back. But I was quite fortunate in that my greater colleagues at the clinic that I worked, they were quite supportive, and they actually really gave me the necessary support that I required. And I have a great group of friends who accept me as I am. And I think that was also very important in me realizing myself. It's important to note that sexual orientation doesn't mean gender identity. So being transgender is not the same as being gay or homosexual. Transgender people can be of any sexual orientation. So someone like myself, who's a transgender woman, I can either be attracted to female and identify as lesbian, or attracted to male and identify as heterosexual or straight, or either be attracted to both male or female and identify as bisexual. As transgender individuals, we aim to achieve a certain appearance, especially physically, and that we can look a certain way that fits our gender identity. And we try to achieve this through accessing affirming medical care in the form of hormone therapy or sex reassignment surgery. These topics will be covered more in depth by other presenters, but basically for those who are female to male, they require testosterone therapy, and those who are male to female, they require estrogen therapy, androgen therapy, and progestins. And then there are also various different surgeries for transitioning both ways, either from male to female, female to male. And I'm sure that someone's speaking about that. I think Dr. Kevin's speaking about that. Then there's hormone therapy, which I referred to. So the estrogen, they would basically, the estrogen regimens would give you feminizing effects. The testosterone would give you masculinizing effects. And there are medical risks associated with hormone therapy. And I'm just going to briefly go through this because I think someone will elaborate on it. So on a feminizing hormone regime, we look to have body fat redistribution so that we can assume the appearance of a female. We also look at trying to decrease our muscle mass. We don't appear to be very masculine. There's also other effects of softening of the skin, decreased oiliness of the skin, breast growth, decreased testicular volume, thinning of hair, slow growth of body hair, and then there's slowness of male pattern baldness when someone's on estrogen. Then the effects of being on a masculinizing hormone is basically increased skin oiliness, facial hair growth, scalp hair loss, increased muscle mass, also body fat redistribution, cessation of menses and clitoral enlargement, vaginal atrophy, and deepened voice. And often when we are able to achieve either being in appearance more in keeping with your gender identity, then that affirms one as a trans individual. Things that Chris has spoke about is basically the use of chosen pronouns. So how to be an ally to trans individuals. So to use their preferred chosen pronoun, so either to refer to people by name rather than using the term sir or ma'am or Mr. or Mrs. Also, not to have an expectation of people conforming to what society believes this is what men should be or this is what women should be. And also do not assume that someone who is transgender is gay or bisexual or lesbian, or that someone who is looking to transition is looking to become a heterosexual. Also, never ask a transgender about how they have sex or what their genitals look like, unless we're taking medical history as a medical or health professional. Also, respect the individual by not sharing their gender identity without their permission, because we are all at different stages of where we are in expressing who we are to others. So someone might not be comfortable to let someone know that in actual fact, I am transgender. Also, it's important, like today's training session, to make sure to educate yourself about what is the experiences of transgender people, what do they go through, and further research and looking at other resources, academic resources about what does it mean to be transgender and how can we support transgender individuals. And then also furthermore, to be an ally, is definitely looking and working towards changing policies which discriminate transgender and gender diverse people. As trans individuals, we face a lot of discrimination in the workplace, in the general society. We also face violent trauma, domestic violence. Um, Also, yeah, so basically looking to facilitate non-discrimination, I think in society as a whole is a good way to be an ally towards trans individuals. And then also one thing that also stands out for me is that don't assume that if someone is transgender, they want to speak about it all the time. Because even when I do think about myself, I think of myself and my gender identity is that of female, not as particularly as transgender female. So as much as I know I am transgender, um, doesn't mean that at the time I always want to be reminded that I'm transgender, because that basically puts the emphasis on the fact that I am different from being like normal female. So normal in inverted commas. Yeah, and then also avoid terms which are derogatory, such as he, she, male, tranny, and that would be a great way to be more accommodating, more inclusive of trans individuals and those who are gender diverse. Thank you.